problems in mathematics, particularly the role of price problems in mathematics. Now, to tell actually whatever I feel, and most of you will share with this, that the solving a problem or answering a question or making a conjecture, these are all really, they constitute the life of mathematics. There have been problems which have really created history and have given direction to the development of mathematics. And not in one area, in several areas. There have been conjectures, people have worked on those conjectures for so many years, but the solution came after having created a lot of mathematics to solve that conjecture. Certain questions have been answered, and in the process, good amount of mathematics has been produced before the question was answered. As you all know, the problems can be good, the problems can also be very ordinary, but the problems can be also very outstanding. All of you know that there are certain problems which are known as the problems of antiquity in mathematics. For example, let me recall you, squaring the circle. That means you are given, for example, just take a circle of unit radius. Using only the ruler and compass, is it possible to construct a square having the same area as the area of unit circle? Now this is just a simple example of the problem known as squaring the circle. Similarly, there is another problem known as doubling the cube. That means given a cube of a particular volume, using only ruler and compass, can you construct another cube which has the volume twice as the volume of the original cube? Then there is a third problem. These are all the problems of antiquity, and I am mentioning only just to tell you that how this raising the problems, asking the questions has really led to the development of mathematics. Similarly, you all know that if you are given only a scale, a ruler, and a compass, you can always construct a regular hexagon. That's very easy because you just draw the circle of a certain radius, and from any point you go on marking, and you can mark the whole perimeter into 6 equal parts, and then you can make a regular hexagon. Therefore, the question is now, can you make a regular septagon? Can you make a regular octagon? In general, can you make a regular n-gun using only ruler and compass? I mean, this is a problem of antiquity. These problems were asked long time back, and they were not easy. Why I am mentioning these problems? Because sometimes we say that I can work out, I can solve any problem. For example, I must mention this because this used to be the case in the University of Allahabad, where I got my basic degree. Allahabad University Mathematics Department had very good teachers, and they were so good that, in fact, most difficult problems, whatever problems you have, whatever questions you have, you take that question. If you are unable to solve them, go to the concerned professor and you tell him that, sir, this is the question, I am not able to solve it, can you please help me? They will immediately solve it, because they were excellent teachers and they had mastered everything whatever they were teaching. But these were actually the problems which they could immediately solve, because they have been solving this problem for several years. But when they are fed up with solving these problems, and if you go on again and ask them a question that, sir, can you give me the solution of this problem? Then they will say that, okay, go and pick up the Tishmarsh's book, and on page 67 you will find the solution of this problem. What I am trying to say is that these are really the problems which are in the form of textbook exercises. And anybody who is teaching mathematics actually has a command over these problems. And here, in this talk that I am referring to the problems, they are not of that type. These problems are really deep problems. In any area of mathematics, you raise a problem, and if you find that only within the tools and the methods available in that area you can solve it, that is a problem, but it's not a very good problem, because it doesn't create any further mathematics. It can be solved using only whatever is known. But the problems which I have just mentioned to you, like the squaring the circle, doubling a cube, or trisecting an arbitrary given angle, or things of this sort, these are the problems which were not textbook problems. They were the problems which really created mathematics, in the sense that certain methods were developed, new ideas were invented, new concepts were introduced, and then finally a new theory was developed, and then using that theory these problems were solved. For example, if you take a quadratic equation, you have a formula to solve it. You take a cubic equation, again you have a formula to write down the roots of that cubic equation. You take a fourth degree polynomial equation, you have a formula again. Now the question is that if you take a fifth degree equation in one variable, do you have a formula to solve or to get the roots of that equation? In other words, can you solve a quintic equation by means of radicals? That means using only the algebraic operations and the taking a square root operation, cube root operation, and so on. Can you do that? Now these were all the difficult problems, and they gave rise to what is known as Galois theory, group theory, and many other areas which were really invented. Now the problems in mathematics have played really a very crucial role. I want to tell you one more story, namely regarding cubic equations. Given earlier, before say 15th century, given a cubic equation, it was not easy for anyone to solve the cubic equation. In fact, there was an Italian mathematician, his name was Tartaglia. There was another mathematician, his name was Fior. They were all very good mathematicians, and they were working in different problems. And then there was a competition between the two. Fior, he asked Tartaglia 30 questions, and all those questions, they involved solving a cubic equation, and he gave them as a challenge to Tartaglia. Tartaglia in return gave 30 problems to Fior to solve them, and they were all related not only to the cubic equation but to some other things also. And the time was 2 months. Each one was supposed to solve, and the bet was that that person who solves first will win the competition, and he will be given a certain prize. And it so happened that when the 2 months period was over, just before one day, Tartaglia solved all the 30 problems and gave it to Fior. And Fior could not solve those problems which were given by Tartaglia to Fior, and the competition was won by Tartaglia, and he got a prize, and that prize was enough to take his friends to a party and celebrate the winning of the competition. Now this type of raising a question and putting a prize, that if anybody solves that problem, he will be awarded this much prize, it has been actually a tradition starting from 15th century, then 16th century, and so on. So much so that, you know, the Bernoulli brothers, once one of the Bernoulli brothers, he asked a question, and the question was like this, that here is a point, here is another point. This is not just vertically below this, it's here. And there are certain curves, there are lots of curves which can join this point to this point. There are thousands of curves. Find that curve along which, if a particle is slided from here, it reaches this point in the minimum amount of time, least amount of time. So what is going to be that curve? This question was raised. It's again a historical question. This was asked by Bernoulli, and it was asked by even Newton was asked to answer this question. And it's a historical fact that overnight Newton came out with the solution to this problem. I mean, immediately as soon as the Bernoulli saw the solution, he said that I know who has solved this problem, and it was Newton. In other words, there has been this spirit of competition in solving problem has been a tradition of mathematics from long time ago. But not always. There have been occasions when there was no prize at all. The only thing was that let us work out these problems, and it's a challenge. In other words, the whole competition was that who solves it, he gets the credit, not the money, only the credit. And in this connection, I would like to mention you that it was Hilbert who gave a set of 23 problems in the year 1900, in the beginning of 1900, during the International Congress of Mathematicians in Paris. He listed a set of 23 problems. And as most of you may be knowing, I'm not sure about the students, but most of the invited guests, they must be knowing that these 23 problems really have created a huge amount of mathematics. And all of them have been solved. For some, the proof has been given. For others, counter examples have been given. For certain other problems, many other ramifications have come out. But the 23 problems raised by Hilbert during the International Congress of Mathematicians really created a vast amount of mathematics. And that continued starting from year 1900 up to 2000. In the whole century, but all of those problems have been solved. Now, but then, recently what has happened, this may be new to the students, and that's why I'm mentioning here, that just to give a sort of incentive to the worldwide mathematicians, the leading mathematicians of the whole world, they got together in the year 2000. And there is an institute called Clay Institute of Mathematics. They call CMI, Clay Mathematics Institute. And that institute, the person who created that institute, his name was Clay, he earmarked $7 million for 7 problems. And the competition is like this, that if you solve one problem, you get $1 million. So these are known as the Millennium Prize problems. And these problems, all of you must be wondering what type of these problems are. And I must tell you that actually the leading mathematicians of the whole world, particularly all the Fields medalists, they got together at the Clay Institute, and then from there, when they found that Clay Institute is prepared to invest this much money, they all got together and they formulated a set of 7 problems, and these problems have been bothering mathematicians, physicists for a long time back. And then in the year 2000, in the month of May, I mean these are historical facts, in the year 1900, it was Hilbert who presented a set of 23 problems. And in the year May 2000, all these Fields medalists, they got together in Collège de France in Paris and announced these 7 problems for the whole world of mathematicians. If you solve any problem, you get $1 million. Now, you must be wondering what are these problems. So actually these problems are really in fact they are very deep problems, and it will be very difficult for me to give you even the idea, but I will like to tell you at least the name, and at least I would like to comment on one problem or 2 problems which all of you might have heard, at least those who are the invited speakers here. I am mentioning the 7 problems, and if you feel interested in looking or going deeper into these problems, you can go to the website of Clay Institute and find it. All details are given there. The first Millennium Prize problem is known as the Birch and Swinnerton-Dyer conjecture. Birch and Swinnerton-Dyer conjecture. These are peculiar name, but about Birch, I will be giving a talk this afternoon in my plenary lecture. This is the first Millennium Prize problem, still open. The second problem is known as the Hodge conjecture. Again, a very fundamental deep problem. The third is Navier-Stokes problems. Navier-Stokes, you must have heard, these are differential equations which are very useful in so-called applied mathematics. There is a very deep problem about the solution of these Navier-Stokes equations. Then there is a problem which deals with actually the logic and computer science known as P versus NP problem. These are about the deterministic systems and the polynomial times. Then the third problem is known as Poincare conjecture. About this I will tell about a few minutes. And then the next problem is known as the Riemann hypothesis. I will also talk about this problem just briefly, particularly because this is one problem known as Riemann hypothesis, in which Professor T. Pati, the former head of the Mathematics Department of Allahabad University, devoted his entire retired life in pursuing this particular problem. Then the last problem is known as the Yang-Miller theory, or Yang-Miller, quantum Yang-Miller theory. And this particular problem is one, I think Professor Ashok Sen will touch about this problem when he gives his plenary talk. Now regarding Poincare conjecture, this is one of the Millennium Prize problems. I want to mention you that this particular problem has been solved. This Poincare was the greatest French mathematician of all time, and he was actually master of all branches of mathematics. But he gave rise to the so-called algebraic topology, namely the concept of fundamental group and homology and cohomology. These were all introduced by Poincare. And in the set of several problems, there was one problem which he left open, and the problem really describes this. It is this, that given a topological space, which is a manifold, that means locally it looks like the Euclidean L space, for example. So take a 3 manifold which is simply connected, and it has the same homology as that of 3 sphere. Then the Poincare conjecture says that it is actually 3 sphere. A simply connected 3 manifold, that means which locally at every point it looks like a Euclidean 3 space. If it is simply connected, then it has to be homeomorphic to the real 3-dimensional sphere. This is known as the Poincare conjecture. It took several years, about 100 years, to be solved this, and the solution was given. Most of you may be knowing, it was solved by a Russian mathematician, and his name is Grigory Perelman. Grigory Perelman is a very humble young man who was invited to the ICM several times. He gave several good talks, but ultimately when he solved this problem, he was given even the Fields Medal during the Madrid ICM, but he refused to accept the Fields Medal. And after that, he was also awarded this Millennium Prize problem, the amount which is meant for the Millennium Prize problem. This award was also given to him. He also refused that. He has in fact isolated himself completely from the whole world. Nobody is able to see him where he is, but it is known that he is somewhere in Russia, and what he is doing is not known. But personality-wise, he is a very isolated person, but he solved this problem, and it's really amazing how he solved it. He solved this problem. This is a problem which lies in the field of manifold theory, or you can say algebraic topology, but really the method which is used to solve this problem goes further beyond in many branches of mathematics. Particularly, the geometry is there, a lot of geometry, lot of algebra, much more, lot of differential equation theory is there, and a new concept known as Ricci flow has been introduced, but this was not introduced by Perelman. It was introduced by somebody called Richard Hamilton, who visited India, and he gave a talk during the Indian Mathematical Society conference in Pune. So he gave the concept of Ricci flow, and Perelman utilized the concept of Ricci flow, and further he got some more idea about how to resolve singularities, topological singularities, and was able to prove this conjecture.